Hello everybody, welcome to a two-parter video. This is going to be focused on some rank up gem suggestions and an offense and defense, and also champions to signature up. So let's get into it. Now you might be kind of wondering, like I was talking about this spreadsheet that I was creating. We're going to go into detail on specific champions. We're going to cherry pick a few champions that I think are good and effective and worthy of rank up gems if we're getting some throughout this saga. And the thing with this is, it might just look like, oh Rich, you can't say you put a lot of effort to it. You've just put a load of like champion PNGs in places. Well, I could then write, maybe next time it's like, oh, I put the image of the champion and then write a spiel of why I think that they would be good for the rank up. And maybe that's down the line, but funnily enough, even putting this together took just too long to do, but like, it is what it is. And I do have fun doing these. It's just they become very labor intensive to do it, and a lot of the times, yeah, you just got to do what you can do and hope that people like it. That's the main thing. Okay, let's get into it a little bit more. A lot of the champions that I've recommended for rank up are in no particular order, and some of those will stretch across the ability to be offensive and defensive based options. Yes, I'm sure people will say, well, that champion there could be used as an offense option and some could be used as a defense option, and I might have just put them in just defense. But there's some that stand out a little bit more. Like Sasquatch can be a very formidable defender, the same way Destroyer can, and Red Skull are, yes, they can be good and offensive, but they're used a lot when it comes to defensive-based usage at the moment. Whether or not you're having a pain in the ass, high signature, high health pool Sasquatch. Like, what about a rank 5 6-star version that gets up to 75k health? Or even a 7-star at rank 3, which will be having 113, give or take, 113,000 health. That is going to be a very annoying defender, especially being 200 signature and especially recovering a lot of the regeneration that the champion could get. That could be a really annoying defender unless you've got a good counter for it, like Human Torch or a heal blocking option. The same can be said for Destroyer, which is a formidable defensive option at the moment. And the same can be said for Enchantress, which, look, some people have at the moment. They've managed to get either early access to, get some of these bundles, and she is an absolute pest. Durr! So yes, ranking up for a defensive option to then thrust onto your Battlegrounds team, or indeed Alliance Wars defense, you're going to get some advantages to doing that. And sticking with defense, you can't go wrong with a bit of old school defensive. Well, it's not old school, but you know, people used to use Rintrah quite a bit in defense. The same thing with Bishop, Battlegrounds Man, same thing with Absorbing Man, Morbius, Weapon X, Domino. These champions here are ones you'll find quite commonly in Battlegrounds. Maybe not so much a Rintrah anymore, but the others definitely you'll find as defensive-based options in different places. Battlegrounds, maybe Alliance Wars Defense, but mainly in Battlegrounds you see a lot of these characters reappear. So those are very good defensive rank ups that could be advantageous. So either offense or defense. And the great thing about them as well, they've got a good front end offensive attacking prowess, so you're not losing out any time by ranking these champions. Two champions that are a little bit out there when it comes to defense, and they have their pluses and minuses, is Shuri and Omega Sentinel. Those two champions you'll find at times, not all the time, at times on defense. Those two largely come into their own in things like Battlegrounds and a few other modes, or specific based Battlegrounds nodes. I've put them in as worthy as rank up because, well, doubling up on your offensive and defensive can work out well. Shuri is a champion that is able to do a large amount of damage, but also in defense, she has untouchable, so she can have a miss, which means that counters for her they're limited down. It's not like a broad spectrum of champions to go against her. It's kind of narrowed down. I'm sure a lot of people would use like Angela and a few other kind of maybe armor breaky type champions, possibly, and cosmic champions taking her down. But for the best part, miss counters seem to be the other type of element of taking her down. There's also Omega Sentinel. Omega Sentinel is, again, a big favourite of mine and a champion I do recommend a lot to players because she has those abilities of pre-fight, of taking on missed champions, of taking on champions that build prowess, so she really takes on those that are like mutants, and also she has heal block, so she's an out there counter for something like Sasquatch's regen, again for example. So there's some great things about that. The thing about her from a defensive perspective is that if putting her in defense, what is it actually going to be, what you're going to get as a result? And it will likely be down to, and I probably won't be able to find it in time, but she has the, she can't have, yes, she's immune, there it is, immune to Nullify, Stagger and Fate Seal. At times you will see her on Battlegrounds defenseless because of that particular reason, or as an attack option, but she's mainly for me an offensive utility monster, and especially one of the go-to mutant destroyers in the game at the moment. Now yes, if you don't know already, I'm not referring to the boost that you get in sort of Saga champions. That doesn't apply for defensive. The way that I'm kind of structuring this video is recommending champions from things that are good about the way they flow, the way they're defensive and frustrating. And going back old school, Man-Thing can definitely be that frustrating, depending on how you choose to rank him up and kind of look at him, or it as a character. It is going to be a defensive annoyance if you have to bring a specific counter for that particular champion. This particular Battlegrounds season, I'm not sure if it's the best champion, because a lot of the time people will choose poison immune champions, and being poison immune and taking on Man-Thing is a massive thumbs up. So maybe for future Battlegrounds metas, he could be a really good option. I mean, more for the victory track, less for the Gladiator Circuit. Maybe you'll put him on and Gladiator Circuit. But having him as another kind of option for defense is a bit out there, a bit cool. The same way another Mystic like Mangog could be a pretty good one. As being a Saga champion, you'll give him the gem, and he may be good for future seasons, especially being a frustrating champion in defense. He's definitely on my radar for a champion I want to rank up. And of course, I've got to change things like stat focuses, but hey, Rome wasn't built in a day, and I've got a lot of stuff on elsewhere. Yep, all champions that I've mentioned do have offensive-based prowess that you might want to exploit and use. Even Mr. Sinister could be good in defense. Shocker has been known to use in defense. But a lot of these three here are offensive monsters that could be just real effective uses for different options. You might even find the leader being used. I mean, he's popular at the moment to be used. I've also not mentioned a champion, we haven't really moved on to offense, but champions like White Tiger, which is a very go-to champion as a serpent counter. Currently the same thing with Wiccan, but more so with White Tiger. She's pretty effective. Black Widow Clairvoyant can give you options to build with like buff suppression, and also interact with her curses, so she can be bleed immune, poison immune, and incinerate immune, and also power control and regen, which is great. Don't undermine Diablo, and of course Silk always packs a punch. And speaking of not writing off champions, Magneto, and as an offensive option for you to take on Orochi, he is an out there option. And if you've seen, was it Unofficial Command Mike? Yeah, and I think Unofficial Command Mike did a video of Magneto taking down Orochi, so I think this again is a champion that will like be another go-to option. I'm actually going to use my gem on him, put him up to rank 4, and then utilize him for that particular fight. I'll probably increase my signatures just to increase some potency of some things that I'd like, but again, that's down to our personal preference, and it's up to you what you do. So those have been the offensive and defensive options. Let's move on to signature up. Quickly covering and moving on to defensive options for Sig up recommendations. There's very light investment to right at the very end, more heavier investment, depending on how you want to do it. I like Sasquatch with a high amount of signatures. I like Domino with a high amount of signatures. I'm a bit partial to Bishop and Iron Man Infamous Iron Man, wrong way around, with high signatures. But it is with Man-Thing, high signatures, frustrating, yes. Mephisto, high signatures, frustrating, yes. His signature ability, as you can see on screen, is that having a higher chance, not ridiculous, but having that higher chance to activate his Aura of Incineration means that if people are not fielding, say in Battlegrounds defense, Battlegrounds attack a Human Torch, then he will find himself doing that Aura. It's more frustrating. That could see yourself getting dealt a lot of damage, and also the immune to passive ability actually modifications sort of helps, but it's an iffy one. It's an iffy one on Mephisto, because it's like, as a 6-star investing in, low cost. 7-star, if we ever get him, high cost. So I think a lot of people would either go for a 6-star ascended 200 signature and hope that the enemy is not fielding anything that's powerful science-based champions, if you know what I mean. You've then got Destroyer, 200 signature on defense, frustrating. Enchantress, 200 signature on the in defense, frustrating. I'm not saying that they should be using defense, but what I'm pointing out is that's the current thing with a lot of players in this game at the moment, is they're doing that. I had that as my I faced off against that last war, so I know how frustrating that was. Yeah, and the 200 signature Sasquatch, frustrating. Domino, 200 signature critical failure, annoying because it's chip damage, unavoidable chip damage. So there are some things that are frustrating with that, and as well as Weapon X, which is they're out of shot. There are more champions. I've cherry picked some because I just ran out of time to cover everything. There's a lot of champions on the front foot of offense, which I think that are very good as well. A very low investment to the likes of Penny Park. You can see that her gains some improvement. She increases the duration of her heal block, which in some ways can be really good to shut off certain things. Like if you're like this meta in Alliance Wars, the longer that regeneration, at least it helps out. You don't have to like quickly focus on your rotation and your SP1s and how you throw stuff. At least it's there. Also, the extent of also, you know, getting extra incinerates as well. So there's some benefit to adding more signatures, which you can see mine's up to 60 at the moment, and is doing for 3.2 seconds of heal block, which you'd love that to be a lot more than what it is at the moment. But it does the job to at least help out and kind of cushion the blow. And one of my favourite 5-stars, which I haven't got a 6-star, but I've picked up recently as a 7-star, is Hulkbuster. This is a fantastic champion, lots of damage, lots of recovery, the regeneration, which you can see is a 5-star, 200 signature, and I recover, I think, yes, 14,814 health. You basically get a second chance, lots of attack rating improvements with self-repair, lots of damage. Get a shock on, do a kind of through the block SP1 rotation, perma stunning, and then doing heavy attack to refresh. Beautiful. It's a very aggressive brawler type champion, and I love him at 200 signature, but I think I might be in a very minimal and small camp for that. There's also tons of other champions I haven't mentioned, like you could have Deathless Vision. He doesn't pack as much as a punch, but he does have an improved attack rating with higher signatures. Namor, we're doing 200 signature, a lot different to low signature. Jessica Jones, Void. There's Mr. Sinister. I think Mr. Sinister could be an out there option. Same thing with Magneto. There's quite a lot of champions, and also, and I'm going to finish the video on a champion that I have recently kind of started using for the first time. I hadn't really been a big fan of Joe Fixit, and that's just because I should have been bothered. I wasn't, and I need to do that. Yeah, I really enjoyed myself with using Joe Fixit in game. I've been using him a lot of Alliance Wars, and thoroughly enjoy it. So he can improve his damage potential, his suppression, I think, with his suits. So his kind of so his card suits end up being more potent as a result of higher signature, which is nice. So I'm a big As my big spades rotator, I do like that critical rating bump, which of course I get with the stacked deck, and of course the jackpot, which is, you know, going to be more beneficial to my damage output and all the other stuff. It depends how I want to rotate, armor penetration, blah 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 blah, etc. Anyway, that's been it for the video. Check out the spreadsheet. Thank you very much for watching. Check out some other content located on screen, and I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.